What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more of the grid, and once again, as most people watching this surely know, Dave Ball has unfortunately passed away, and I've only learned this in the last 24 hours, though I think it happened on Tuesday. And yes, I'm very struck by the news. The Grid is not a group I had ever heard of before I began my YouTube journey through Soft Cell, though as I've mentioned many times, Soft Cell is a group I knew back when I was a single-digit kid in the 80s, though it was only through a few songs. I think it was Tainted Love and the cover of Where Did Our Love Go, which I think was often performed as a medley, like, one track. There might have been one or two others, but by and large, I only really discovered them in the last few years as I began going through them in detail on YouTube here. And in that regard, I wanted to give a special shout out to Kim, a big Soft Cell fan, a big Dave Ball fan, someone who introduced me to the Grid and made their music available. So yes, I'm not sure. My understanding is that they actually were preparing to do another Grid album. Obviously, Dave just finished working on a Soft Cell album before he passed. But yes, I wonder if Richard Norris will carry on or whether this will effectively be the end of the Grid. Either way, I have more Grid material to go through in this journey, and I'm very looking forward to it and very appreciative of the music that Dave left for the world. So the next tune on 456, which is from 1992, is Crystal Clear. It's a phrase used basically as a visual metaphor, but related to conceptual understanding or clarity, something being very understandable and clear in a logical or indeed conceptual sense. So in that regard, and knowing that a lot of their songs don't have lyrics per se, more like sound bites or tidbits. Of course, there have been at least a couple that had like fuller, proper vocals and lyrics, but yes, I don't necessarily expect there to be a full narrative on display. If there are lyrics of any significant note or extent, then perhaps it relates to an ironic usage where something is really complicated and murky, so it's being referred to as crystal clear. Either way, I'll try to catch what I can on a first listen. This is the Grid, the tune is Crystal Clear, and it's from the 456 album, 1992.
A kind of dream world appeared.
I love that. That, you know, 92 was before my time going to raves. I didn't start going to raves till the very end of 96 and didn't start going, weekly and, to different styles of parties until 97. But in the second half of the 90s, when I would go to a lot of techno and trance parties, often in LA County somewhere, sometimes like out in the forest or the desert, although even those, sometimes it was still LA County. Anyway, the point is, throughout Southern California, there at some parties was a chill out room, and they often played techno still in there, but it'd be like down tempo, like mellow, like vibe style techno with, like lower BPM, more like mellow sounds, sort of like, sometimes techno mixed with a bit of electronica where it'd be like syncopated or like break beats. But that's the kind of tune that I would hear in some of those down-tempo chill-out rooms. Now, again, as someone who's into acid techno and, faster acid trance and gabber from the 90s and so on, I wouldn't spend a whole lot of time in those chill-out rooms, but sometimes that's kind of where you wanted to be for a little while. You'd go rock out in the hardcore room, and then, especially if you had some friends with you at the party and you wanted to actually be able to talk a little bit, you could go to the chill-out room. And again, sometimes at like desert parties, there'd be one tent that was sort of the designated like mellow area, and sometimes there were like water bottles or like refreshments and so on, and there would be music like this that was a bit less intense than what was playing in other areas. So yeah, it reminds me of some chill out rooms at 90s rave parties I went to. I enjoy that rising and increasingly electric, but then somewhat dissipating and falling, like cyclonic synth line. I enjoy there's some, bleepy or like more computerish sounding touches along the way. There's some long like chords, including like chords where I thought they were going to be doing like a progression, but they were really like these long held organ style chords that would then sort of evaporate at the end of a really long extension. And yeah, again, I enjoy the sort of muffled kick drum, the lower tempo, so a techno track, but a very cool and smooth and mellow vibe type of techno tune. And, obviously a reference to, information in the mind, which, crystal clear, I think maybe, to the degree it was lyrically addressed or addressed through a sample, I think it was more straight away, not so much ironic or sarcastic as I considered. Now, I just listened to a soft cell tune, so there's a lot of soft cell tunes where concepts are invoked ironically or with a bit of sarcastic wit. But yeah, again, knowing that Grid's tunes tend to be a bit more like straight away electronica, I'm not surprised it was really just a sample which recurred at a few points. But again, a really smooth and mellow tune. A shout out to both Richard and Dave, and of course, RIP to Dave. Let me know what you think of this one. I'll see you for the next one. Peace.